Hello, hello. I am so glad you're here. This is Pamela Wilson. I am here with Natasha Ho, who is joining us today. Natasha, I'm so happy to welcome you. Natasha is a businesswoman who is on a mission to help entrepreneurs rapidly grow their businesses to six figures and beyond without grinding longer or working harder or doing all the things. She helps entrepreneurs tap into playfulness to elevate what they sell and how they sell it so they can create massive visibility, consistent sales, and have a whole heck of a lot more fun. I am so happy to welcome you, Natasha. Thank you so much for being here. And my first question for you is I would love to ask you about this concept of play and who you're helping with this concept of play. Who is the audience that you're helping?
Yeah, well, thank you, Pamela, first for having me. And the the reason that play became so central to what I do is I realized as I was building my business that I was having success, but I wasn't actually feeling successful. Like I wasn't actually feeling like I enjoyed growing the business. And I realized it started to create a little bit of sabotage, like self-sabotage, because it was like I wasn't actually wanting to have more clients. I wasn't actually wanting to do more work and do more things. And so I was like, okay, well, why am I not growing? Probably because I don't actually want to do more stuff. And so my husband, actually, it was a storytelling a coach that I was working with, and he was helping me to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next in terms of my content. And he asked me, "What's the best compliment anyone's ever given you?" And I said it was when my husband told me that I'm a great mom, and he said that he really admired the way I played with my son. And I was like, that really just resonated with me. And my coach was like, well, let's dig more into that. And we started talking about play. And that's what led me to starting my first business was I was teaching people how to cook. And I love cooking because I get to play in the kitchen and I get to experiment and there's no wrong answers and you can just have fun. And I started looking at my history. It's like I loved things like being on stage and playing and pretending. And I love, I'm learning to play new things. I took up playing the harp. I'm learning to play the harp right now. So this idea of play just kept showing up in my life over and over again. And I realized that the area that it didn't get to show up in was in my work. And there was no playfulness there. And that's what made it so hard for me to grow. And so I looked at how can I be play first in my business. And as I changed that, it completely changed the relationship I had with my business. And then the results followed. And so the people that I really want to help with this now are the people that are in a place where they have success, they have growth, but they don't have a relationship with their business where they're having fun. And they've had success in areas of their life, but they're like, I'm still missing the joyfulness. I'm still missing that je ne sais quoi that would really make me feel like this is an adventure that I'm excited to be on, and that there's joy not only in the achievement of the goal, but the journey towards it.
Okay, I love that because it sounds to me like what you're saying is people may have had some success, but what they're finding is that their sort of resistance to growing more is coming partly from the fact that they have not incorporated play and they don't have this kind of relationship with success. And I mean, I can understand that if you feel like it's going to be so much work and not even enjoyable work, that could stop you from growing. Is that how it shows up for people?
Exactly. Yeah. I have clients where they're like, I'm getting onto sales calls or I'm doing my marketing. And it's really hard to be consistent. That's typically the thing that they come to me with is they say, my consistency is off and I don't know how to be consistent. And what I found again and again is that consistency, if you try to just use willpower and just like push yourself to do the thing over and over again, you have this relationship with it still where you don't really want to do it. Consistency is elusive. And really, what's made the difference is if you start from a place of thinking about what would really excite me. How could I do this in a way where it would be something I desire the result of? And I would be really like excited about that. And there's a playfulness there, then you can continue practicing it to the point where you get consistent. But when we try to just use sheer will all the time in our business to get us through everything, that you run out of the willpower. We all know, like when it comes to like, you're trying to be on a diet and it's like, okay, I'm just going to will myself to always eat the same things that are just like completely healthy. And then it's like, okay, like you get to the point where it's like you see the cake and you just can't help it. And then you end up binging on all these terrible things you're not supposed to eat.
Oh my gosh, so relatable. Yeah,
And
totally.
it's the same thing in your business when you're trying to use sheer wheel all the time. It's like it's really hard to be consistent. It's like there has to be joy and playfulness. In the same way, you've got to have those like days where you have the ice cream and you also eat the vegetables. It's like you have to make sure that there's that balance there. And so the consistency is one of the main things that comes up again and again, as people will say, I'm having trouble with consistency. And that's one of the main ways that I know that there's a lack of playfulness in the business. So if you're having trouble with consistency, this is a really good place to start.
So that's a red flag that we should all be looking for, it sounds like.
Yes.
If you can't be consistent. And it sounds to me like the other red flag is you are not growing, and for some reason you're finding there's like a resistance around growth, right?
Yes. And if you have any resentment around your clients, this is another thing that I see
Yeah.
oftenly, that's not a word, often, often is if there's resentment towards your clients, and this can be for a few reasons, but what I find is that like burnout is not just about how much work you're doing, but it's also about who you're working with. And have you come to the idea of being really selective and intentional about who you're working with in terms of your clients? Because when I work with people and actually go through the process of refining their offer, refining their content and their marketing, I always start all the way back at the beginning of who. The who question before the what, before the how, it's who. Because you're spending your entire life's work on these people that you're serving. And even when you're not like physically with them, you're thinking about them. They're on your mind. You're like thinking about how can I help them more? How can I write content? How can I attract them? You're thinking about them constantly. So it's like if that's where you're spending all of your energy, you have to make sure that there's a playfulness in that. Where do you want to play in terms of the people you want to play with? Who are your playmates? And you
Oh
have
my
to
gosh,
think,
I love I love that approach. And I'll tell my clients, like, when you work with me, I will wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about your business. I don't mean to be weird, but I just will. My brain won't turn off. So I love this approach of thinking about them like your playmates. They're your playmates, and your brain is engaging with them and with their businesses. I love that.
yeah.
So, okay, so let's back up a little bit, because I think the average person does not associate the concept of play with the concept of business. So, I would love to know what it means to you in the context of business. Like, what do you include in that definition of play when it comes to play and business?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, sure. So when I think of playfulness, I really just try to take myself back to the place where play was the thing that I spent my entire day, which was when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, it was all about curiosity. It's about discovery and exploration. It's about experimenting and trying new things. And there's not really a wrong way to do things. And so when I'm coming to business, I work with my clients to not be so structured and thinking I have to do business this one way. It's like design your business in a way that really suits you. So if you're a person who wants to be online, we can do online. But if you don't want to be online, we can do marketing offline. And if you want to have lots of different offers and you want to come up with new stuff every week, let's do that. Like at one point I saw like the idea of secret offers and I was like, that sounds like fun. I'm going to try a secret offer. So I put out a secret offer to my people and I had 5 people that bought my secret offer. And I was like, that was really fun. I just like try something new. And so with playfulness in business, it's like thinking of your business as a playground of what would actually be fun for me to do in this? What could I try? How could I experiment? And how could I look at my business as an opportunity for me to be curious about what else can I do? What else could this look like? What could I try next? That's really what it is. And when people come to me, they often have this mentality of, okay, tell me what to do. what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And what I found is that I can't really tell you what to do because I don't know what's going to work. And if we can change our mentality to actually being in the place of let's discover this together, let's figure out what works for you and what works for your people, then you can actually have fun in that process and you're learning something new every single day. And that's actually really, really fun way to run your business versus feeling like you have to have this cookie cutter structure and some coach told you to do it, so you have to do it that way. And that's the only way to have success. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. I've seen successful people do it in dozens of different ways. There are things that success has in common, but when it comes to how you run your business, how you structure your business, you can do it in a way that actually fits you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, I think so often in the online space, especially, people are selling these off the shelf packages. And it's like, just follow this step by step, and it will work exactly for you like it does for this person and that person and that person. And people are used to having a solution that looks like that. And it's a more interesting sales conversation to tell them, no, we're actually going to craft this around your life and what works for you and what will work for your prospective customers. And it's more of a custom solution, really, but it's also one that will likely work better and last longer in terms of them being really excited about offering it and selling it, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that people, like you said, they see this idea, and I think it's almost like it feels easier. There's a safety in believing that if somebody just gives me the steps and I follow the way that they did it, it's safer to do that. But it also, like, being willing to be bold and do it your own way actually is more rewarding than just doing it the safe way of trying to do it somebody else's way.
I love that. Yeah, that's so true. And it's a little more work, but it's more realistic, honestly, to sort of say, there's not one solution that works for everyone. We're going to come up with something that actually just works for you and in your situation. So I love that. So how do you bring play into that process of coming up with this kind of custom solution for people?
Yeah, so the conversations that we go pretty deep when we start to talk about like what it is that people want to do. And so I ask questions like, what what gets you really excited? What are they really passionate about? What fills them with righteous anger? What did they want to be when they were growing up? And when we start talking about these things, then people like reach into areas that they haven't really thought of before. And we start talking about like focusing on who they want to work with. And I've done this exercise with people before, and then they have this long list. And then we start to look at, okay, well, who are they currently working with? And it's okay for that not to be the same person. And so then we talk about how do we actually attract that kind of person and allow you to work with those people. And we do a lot of storytelling in that process of, okay, well, how can you bring more of you and your story into your marketing, into the conversations that you're having with people? One of my clients, we recently had this conversation where she was going to a networking event and we talked about how she was introducing herself. And she owns a brick and mortar business and they do paint and sips at this business. And so she was going to these events and she was always introducing herself as, oh, I own blah, blah, blah business and it's a paint and sip. And I was like, let's talk about that. Because
Yeah, because do we know for sure that everyone knows like, I know what a paint and sip is, you know what a paint and sip is. Does everyone know what a paint and sip is?
yes. And
That's a valid
even,
question, right?
yeah. And beyond that, it was like, that's how she does what she does, but that's not actually what she does.
That's not the main benefit.
Exactly. And so we talked about it. And I was like, when we had that conversation, where we came to was what she actually does is she transforms people's relationship with art. And then she does that through paint and sips and parties, and she has education programs and she runs retreats. And it actually opens the door for her to talk about all the wonderful things that she does to support people. So when she went to the event, she introduced herself as, hi, I'm so and so in my business. And what I do is I help people transform their relationship with art. And she said it changed the way she showed up and it changed the way people reacted to her. They were like, so much more curious and intrigued by this idea of you're transforming people's relationship with art. What does that mean? And then she can say, oh, I run these education programs, I do paint and sit parties, I run retreats, and then there's so many other ways that she can talk about
I
what she
love
does.
that. Yeah, I love that. And I think you're right. I think so many people talk about the mechanics of how they deliver what they do rather than talking about the transformation that what they do delivers to people, right? Like in this case, it's really transforming how someone interacts with and thinks about art. And the mechanics is a paint and sip party and lots of other things that she does. So I love that. And I'm curious to know if you have found this as well. When I walk people through a similar process, at the end of that, they realize that they can charge a lot more for what they do
Yes,
because the
exactly.
transformation is understood. It's like, oh, that actually sounds really valuable. you know?
Exactly. Yeah. She realized she had more offers in her too because she thought like, oh, I just have this one little offer. And then we started talking about it. And then that's when she added retreats and she added all these other things. And like you said, she can charge more. She has, and people who think like, oh, I don't have a high ticket offer in my business. I think this is one of the big things is if you actually realize what is the real transformation that happens, then you can say, oh, okay, these are the ways that I can get people all the way there. Because you may have been helping people get part of the way there with your smaller ticket offer or your low ticket offer. But if you wanted to help somebody get all the way there, that would be the high ticket offer that you can offer someone.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that seems like such important work. I love that. And it sounds like it happens early on in your program. It happens early on in mine as well. I mean, you and I are both helping people to create higher value offers, and it sounds like we're laying a similar foundation for our customers. So I love that. So, all right, but I want to go back to this concept of play and just touch back on it again. So, if somebody is not working with you or with me and they say, I love this idea of play and I want to prioritize it. I want to make it part of my everyday routine. What are some of the shifts in thinking that they need to do so that they can make that happen?
Yeah. So I would look at the first thing I would look at is really just sitting down and creating a vision for yourself, a vision that you could actually be excited about. If you can have a context for why you're doing what you're doing in your business, and that is when there's enough enough juice, enough excitement behind it. For me, the context, I have a few. One of them is I love travel, I love adventures, and so the context I created around my business is that I want my business to be one of the greatest adventures of my life. And the other context that I created for my business is I want my business to inspire a world of Black female entrepreneurs. And so those are two of the games that I'm playing at.
Yeah.
And when I think about those are sustaining. Those are affirming. Those are things that I can be in the game of for the rest of my life. They're not
They're
something
they're like big
just
mountains you're climbing in a way, right? You
exactly,
could be
exactly.
they're going to keep you busy for a while, but also, I mean, at the top of that mountain is a really amazing lofty goal, right? So it's probably very motivating.
It is. Yeah. And so if you can, that's where I would start is that you have a context that's big enough. Because if your context is just, I want $1 million or I want to, retire my partner, it's like, those are great. When you get there, what next?
Right.
And so, or maybe it's, you're at this earlier point, you're like, I want to get to 10K months in my business, but what next? What after that? And how can you continue to keep going beyond that? And how can you keep going in the points where you really don't feel like people are responding? And it's like, for me, it's like, there's many points where it's like, I put an offer out there or I send an email and nothing happens. And it's like, okay, well, when I'm playing the bigger game of I'm going to inspire a world of Black female entrepreneurs, it's like I have to keep going in order for these women to actually be inspired. And I have to have a story to tell that's going to inspire them. And so
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah.
yeah, keep going. So that is, I would think, is the first place I would start with is like, do you have a context that's big enough? Do you have a vision that's big enough to sustain the game that you want to play at?
Yes, I love that. So it's basically, I mean, this is a way to incorporate play where you're basically saying, why am I playing? Why am I playing? And what am I going to do when I'm not like I'm behind in the game or I'm feeling like I'm not winning the game? Like, what am I going to do to keep my energy high and to keep myself motivated?
Yeah, that would be
Like,
the first thing. And then the second thing I would give you is celebration. Making sure that you're celebrating the wins along the way, that every action that you take that gets you closer, that's difficult, that challenges you, make sure that you're celebrating that along the way and really celebrating the action versus celebrating the achievement, because you can always control your action. You can't always control the outcome, but you can celebrate that you continued to do that and you persevered. And so celebration is a big part of like what I do for myself and what I do with my clients. One of my clients, we're going out this weekend to celebrate. The one I told you about earlier, she has this art business and she wants to start mentoring creatives, like mentoring artists to help them monetize their like artists, starving artists everywhere. Like how does she actually help them? And so she signed on her first client as for that business. And so we're going out to celebrate this weekend. But like creating celebrations, whether it's, you take yourself out, you have a spa day, you have, some special meal, you pop champagne, or you just like give yourself, the space and time you need, whatever it would be that's a celebration to you, really incorporating celebrating. And that's another thing that I find is actually brings a playfulness to it, because it's like I'm playing a game and there's a prize, and then I can keep playing the game and there's a prize, and I play.
yeah,
It's like, okay, now there's like I'm actually literally playing a game because there's a prize that I can go after, not just the achievement of the final, goal.
right.
Wonderful, but there's prizes that keep you going, and that it also sustains you throughout the journey, so that when you have the setbacks, you're not knocked down to -10. You're just knocked down to maybe 10 if you've already moved yourself up to 20 or
Right.
25.
Oh,
Right.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that because I think so often we have this weird like mental checklist, right? So you do a big promotion and you get, your new clients in or whatever. And then it's kind of like we check that box and we're like, all right, next, and we just move
Move
on. We
on.
never stop to celebrate. And in some cases, you're right. What you're celebrating is the effort more than the result. Maybe you didn't get the exact result you wanted, but you made that effort and you have to stop and celebrate.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think that the celebrating the action over the result is actually another piece of the consistency. Because, like, oh, okay, I'm celebrating the fact that I was consistently doing this thing. And I reinforce that being consistent pays off because I'm getting the prize. And then ultimately the result will follow.
Yes, I love that. All right. Well, that's a perfect segue into something else I wanted to ask you about because I noticed that on Facebook you were doing this thing called Nonstop November, and we're filming this in November. So that feels very playful to me. I want to hear more about that and how you came up with that idea and the goal for it. Tell us about Nonstop November.
Yeah. Well, thank you for for checking me out. Yeah, on Facebook, I'm doing daily videos where I am sharing instruction, education around how to package, position, and market for high ticket clients. How do you attract high ticket clients? And so that really came out of we were actually at Disney World last month in October. We went to Disney World, and I was trying to think of what I wanted to do to really like keep me like excited. And I was like, well, how do I really want to end the year off like strong? And how do I help other people end the year off really, really strong? And I was like, well, then maybe do something in November. And then I was like, the word nonstop came to me. I was like, nonstop November. That sounds kind of fun. And so I was like, I'm going to do daily videos. And it's actually funny because you and I, Pamela, we met through a program where we were doing like daily content. And so that kind of also inspired me because I was like, that was really fun. Like just getting in every single day and really focusing and honing in on this particular content that I'm going to share. And I share content very consistently and regularly, but it was like me really, I think of it almost like a workout where it's like some every day, you do your workout, but sometimes you really want to push yourself to the limit and see like, what's my personal best? How hard can I go? And so it's fun to do that. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself again, or I'm going to do videos every single day, Monday through Sunday, every day. And I'm going to share and really to help people that are watching that to end the year strong and to see what it looks like to be consistent. Because I know that I always, in order to lead people, I have to lead by example to show you what that looks like.
Right. And I love you chose video, which I think is super daunting for a lot of people. Did that feel daunting for you, or were you like, oh no, video's good?
When if you would have asked me that question like 2, 3 years ago, I would have said very daunting. I actually shared a post about this recently when I first started doing my business, and I was like, okay, everyone says do video, do lives, like beyond just video, do lives, and I was like, oh my gosh. So when I first started, I used to change the settings on my lives to only me, and I would record the video, and then I would be able to tap into like the live like prioritization from Facebook, but then I could also like make sure I was comfortable with it. And it also helped me to get used to this idea of rolling through my mistakes and continuing to go. And that was what I did for several weeks. And then I made a commitment to do. I was teaching cooking at the time, so I was doing weekly cooking videos, and every week I would talk about a different cuisine from another part of the world. And so that became my repetition. And that's how I got my reps in to be able to be on camera week after week and feel comfortable talking to people and instructing and sharing and pulling in stories and all of that. So at this point now, I feel comfortable on camera, but people are like, you're such a natural. And I'm like, no, 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 I'm not a
It
natural.
it never starts that way, right? And I love that trick of just making it invisible to people, just because part of going live is that thing like, oh, there's the red dot and now I'm live, and it's just very daunting. And but the idea of just doing it and not publishing it, it's I think that's so smart. That's a great way to get yourself to feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and it's like you're still doing it. You're still in front of the camera. You're getting the practice of that experience, and you're teaching your subconscious mind. And then eventually you'll feel comfortable just hitting the button. Now, as I'm sure you do, you just hit the button and you just start talking, and it flows.
Yeah, I mean you get that comfort level after a while, but you're right. It's playing at it for a good long time so that you can get to that point. So, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up? Anything you want to make sure people know? I did drop into chat that people can find you at my6figureyear.com. But is there
Yes,
any last word of encouragement that you want to share with people?
I would just say that the movement that I really stand behind, and my mantra is to be bold and to play first. And so I that's the one thing I would encourage you to do is be bold in your business, but in every area of life. Be bold to go after the things that you want, and remember that by playing first that you can actually enjoy the experience and bring a joyful experience to how you grow your business and how you grow your life.
Oh my gosh, be bold and play first. I think you need that on a t-shirt, Natasha. I love that. Be bold and play first. Yes, I love that. That is awesome. Natasha Ho, thank you so much for being here and for sharing this outlook and sharing this playful approach to business. And I just appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Pamela. It was a pleasure.